Hi, welcome once again to Inside Out Alignment, your platform for self-discovery and creativity. Today, it's a blessing to have with us Steve Fierro, who is the youngest of five kids from an Italian family. He's worked in banking for 4 years before going to Wall Street to become a derivative broker. He now lives in Singapore due to work and have lived and worked in Tokyo and London as well. Traveling and living abroad has given him the opportunity to see things from different perspectives. He's also the host of the podcast, Awakened Mind Podcast. Steve, it's a blessing to have you here today. I know it's late in Singapore, 10 p.m. So I'm honored to have you on the show at this time when I'm just waking up and looking fresh and I'm like, wow. So thank you so much for giving us this time.
You're welcome. You look amazing. For me, this is morning, I'm a night owl. So I can't, it's an honor to be here. I'm really, it's cool. It's like, I get excited to do this. So let's get stuck in.
Yeah, thanks. So you've had your career more in banking, and then being a derivative broker and still doing, working in that aspect. But when I read your bio, you have like this, traveling, having this open mind and moving into, talking about health issues and becoming more aware about health. And you said this happened around 2000 when Tony Robbins in Tony Robbins seminar, where a colony cleanse in Thailand was established and run by somebody who has beat a stage 4 cancer. And that's when your awareness about health became, started. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you got it right. My journey of awareness of the world has always been a curiosity as a kid and stuff. But the health thing, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar in 2002 in Singapore. And the last day of the seminar, it's like a 4-day seminar, and the last day is dedicated to health. So that whole day, he got into alkalinity, acidity, disease, what disease is, your immune system, the blood, having a blood alkalinity of 7.4. Our body needs to maintain that. And Tony is really influenced by a doctor named Dr. Robert Young, who has a website called phmiracle.com. So a lot of that is about nutrition and eating and food combining and just things that are like so kind of basic, but it's really powerful knowledge. So that sort of started me on nutrition, what I'm eating. I read a book called Fit for Life after that. And then I read a bunch of books. But the distinction that Tony made was, alkalinity is sort of energy and healing and immunity. And acidity is sort of like, aging faster, tiredness, and disease. And, acidity is a number of things. It's a lot, stress causes acidity, anger, the foods we eat can be acidic, wine, alcohol, smoking, the toxins that are in food, the toxins that are in the air are acidic, and they acidify your body. We're mostly water. We're technically 75% water. There's water in our cells. And, so what the main distinction was that disease comes from acidity, not from germs, right? It comes from a toxic, immune compromised body and blood. And the way to reverse that is through cleansing and nutrition. So that started that whole journey. And then being in Singapore, I went, Thailand's got a lot of interesting things, silent retreats and, colonic cleansing. Koh Samui is basically dedicated to colonic cleansing. Mm-hmm. So I went for a week of colonic cleansing, never done a cleanse before. And this was shortly after Tony Robbins' seminar. And I went there not really knowing what I was getting myself into, but it was 2 colonics a day that you do in your room with yourself. And there's a schedule where you're taking detox drinks and you're not eating any solid food. So you're Your body's shut down in terms of digestion. So your body can now commit itself to purging toxins and stuff. But the guy who set this whole company up had stage 4 cancer. And the doctor told him, you know, we've done everything we could do. He had chemo and radiation. And he was basically told he has 6 months to live. And he found out about Dr. Bernard Jensen, who wrote a book called The Guide to Better Bowel Care. So it's the whole thing's about cleansing. There's really graphic pictures about what comes out. And so, you know, he took this on his own. And there's the Gerson method. There's Ann Wigmore, who reverses cancer with, you know, wheatgrass. And it's really all the same thing. It's detoxing and nutrition. But long story short, I went there. He had set up this whole program that you're on a schedule. He was there. People are there with disease. There's people there just cleansing. There's people doing yoga. There's people doing meditation. And you're not working and you're not eating. So you're on this schedule and you're meeting people and you're having these conversations and you start to sort of think outside the box of who you are, what your body is, and what it's capable of. And the conversations that came from this guy were, yeah, you know, the doctor told me, you know, as doctors do, right? The authority figure in the white coat, you have 6 months to live, get your house in order, you're going to die. And he, through cleansing, reversed his cancer, through taking away the acidity to restore immunity. And the disease can't live in an immune strong alkaline blood and body condition.
Wow. I love the story too. It's quite inspiring. And
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're at the cleanse, like you're not eating. So there's no restaurant chatter. You're not eating around food or drinking beer, but everyone's getting detox drinks at the same time. There's probably 7 or 8 of them during the day. And, you know, the chatter's like, well, how was your first colonic? You know, it's like, well, and you sort of, you know, what was in the basket? And you're like, you know, it's like, it sounds nasty, but it really, when you're there, it's not. It's very normal.
Yeah, and that should have really been a great experience as well. And saying that that was like the beginning of your health journey, I think that's quite amazing because being in an environment like that and then, you know, coming out with something and then looking things at with different eyes or seeing things in like, wow, what was I missing? Like, oh, I've been missing this all, you know, for so long. That's really eye-opening and it's a great thing to know. You know,
it's just
and that's why when you're open-minded, being open-minded is really key. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, also, how many people are going to take a holiday for 7 days and do colonics? You know, I mean, that was the first step. But it's like a veil lifts, and there's a shift in perception, and all of a sudden, this whole new sort of, I call it your aperture. You know, you could only see this. Now you see this. Like your aperture is wider, so your truth is bigger.
Definitely. Yeah. So you also talk about viruses.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that and, you know,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm just a normal guy who reads a lot. So, but I got into, after the cleanse, I got into Otto Warburg, who was a German scientist, doctor, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931 for medicine. Not the Nobel Peace Prize. He won in 1931 the Nobel Prize for medicine for determining that cancer is anaerobic. It needs low oxygen to happen, to proliferate and even occur in your body, and it needs acidity, and it feeds on sugar. He determined that in 1931. Yep. So I got into him. And then I got into a doctor called Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, who used frequencies. He had his own privately funded laboratory. He's a genius. He's on Tesla's level. Both of them, what they realized was that the whole Louis Pasteur germ theory was sort of, they felt like they didn't buy into it. The germ theory is you catch a germ and you get a disease. It's the germ that causes the disease, right? You know, HIV causes AIDS. The polio virus causes polio, right? This is my humble opinion after all this research. There's another theory called the terrain theory, where disease is caused by the terrain, not germs, okay? I mean, there's trillions of viruses in our body right now. There's trillions of viruses in the air right now. So again, the Pasteur germ theory is a germ you catch and it causes a disease. So, you know, there's no cancer germ, you know, but what I think viruses is, so based on the terrain theory, that it's the terrain of the body and the blood and your water, that you're toxic and acidic. You're giving the terrain of the body is giving the cancer and the disease the proper environment to breed. Okay, it needs acidity, low oxygen, toxicity. So it's not because you have a germ, it's because your terrain's toxic. That's why you're diseased. Okay, so when I've reversed my mother's autoimmune disease, I've helped people beat cancer and diabetes based on this theory. So to me, a virus is well, we create our own viruses when we're poisoned. Let's just say there's poisons in the air. Maybe you were spraying Roundup in your yard and you breathed in a lot of poisons. Well, those poisons go in and they have to be processed, right? They have to be basically handled. So if you're over poisoned to the point where your immune system's over compromised, a virus is the excretion of poison from a cell to eliminate the poison that you've brought into your body. So viruses are actually the excretion of the poisons to eliminate the poisons. They're also a communication mechanism between cells to say, hey, we're at the point of no return. We got to get rid of this poison. And that's called a cytokine storm, meaning you could be poisoned and not be symptomatic. But then you get to a certain level and the viruses have a storm and that's when you're symptomatic. So there's a whole thing that viruses are exosomes. Even the head of Johns Hopkins said viruses are exosomes and they're not alive, meaning they're not living material. So this is a whole debate. But the theory is that my theory is that viruses don't cause disease. Okay? It's the toxicity and the poisoning from something else that is causing the viruses in your body to excrete the poison, right? So you got to a certain level of toxicity, and now something else. Who knows? It could be Wi-Fi. It could be that it was the tipping point, and you're just over, right?
Because
So, of course, I'm not an expert, and this is from my reading, but there's people saying the same thing. And to me, my theory ties in that disease is not caused by germs. It's caused by acidity, toxicity, compromised immunity of the blood and body, the terrain, right? So, that's where a lot of my stuff stems from.
Yeah. And I know you say you're not an expert, but the things that you're saying, you got it from those who are in the field. I do listen to many doctors as well, who are experts in their field. So it's sharing that information. Maybe those who haven't been able to get to those people. It helps them, they can look out for them, especially during this time where people are so stressed with everything going on, during these unprecedented times. I think bringing this up, we don't know what people out there are going through. So it's an eye-opener for many, and it's necessary for us right now to take certain steps. Many people are not going out in many states or in many countries.
Yeah.
So, and there are many information online. So you bringing this up is an opportunity for someone to be like, oh my God, I need to look at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't know what is going to happen to them, or maybe they know somebody else, and is this going to be useful to that brother or that friend or whoever.
Well, I mean, Mary, it even goes further, because if we're going to relate it to what's going on now, a lot of what I just spoke is just really general. Any day of the year, any time of the year, whether there is a so-called pandemic or not. These are dots I've connected. But in relation to what's going on now, the thing I didn't say that ties everything in is that our immune system is all we need to beat disease. Okay.
Yeah.
But our blood, and I'm simplifying this. This is my way of connecting dots for people. That took me a long time. Our body fights to keep our blood pH at 7.36, okay? It does anything. It leaches. This is why people get osteoporosis, because calcium is a very big alkalizer. So if people are leading an acidic life, wine, beer, cake, sugar's acid, right? Chemicals, Diet Coke is all chemicals, sugar, fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oil. They don't realize everything goes in their body. And now their blood is getting slow and gooey, and their pH is dropping because of all this acidity. Right. So now you have a blood pH of 6, And guess what? You have no immunity. I mean, you don't have a lot of immunity. You still have an immune system, but it's not functioning. So now not only are you giving the terrain the opportunity to breed cancer, okay, but your immune system, the guy that finds cancer cells, which are cells that don't belong in your body, they're free radicals, and that kills them every day. We have free radicals all the time. But so now our own defense is not working because we're so acidic and toxified just from our thoughts and our living that now we have a lower blood pH, a compromised immunity, and we're basically giving the opportunity for disease to spread. Now, here's the key. Here's the catch with what's going on now. Your immune system is strengthened by oxygen, sunlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, vitamin D.
Happy thoughts, not fear. Fear depresses your oxygen, your immune system. So the way to boost an immune system is to exercise, get oxygen, and get sunlight, because people don't realize there's vitamin D and vitamin C that develops in your body through sunlight. It strengthens bones, it strengthens your immunity. It kills, ultraviolet light kills disease, right? So what are no one questions, not one health official has said it's really important to strengthen and fortify your immune system during this time. In fact, all the measures, masks, they cut off your oxygen, and you're now breathing a petri dish, right? So immediately a mask cuts off your oxygen. So lower oxygen, and it actually, OSHA, they've done a test where as soon as you put a mask on, as soon as you put it on, your oxygen intake goes below safe standards, okay? That's almost immediately. It's within 10 seconds of putting a mask on. So now you're depressing your immune system by not getting enough oxygen, just by having this little blue thing on your face, okay? And in my humble opinion, viruses are so small, they're microscopic beyond belief. They can go through a ceramic filter. A mask is Looney Tunes to wear. It even says it on the box that it can't stop viruses. So now you're compromising your immune system. The thing you need to stop being symptomatic and having the cytokine viral storm, or stop COVID-19 from happening from SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is what they're saying. So, and you're breathing CO2, that's depressing your immune system. You're basically breathing a petri dish. They're telling you not to have sunlight. People are watching the news and out of their minds in fear, okay? All of this could cause COVID-19 to erupt, just this alone.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Steve. In 1988, you had a gangrenous appendix, issue, or, and you had a heart pain living away from you. I know you have heart pain living away from the US, but did
that's
that
different.
happen, when you were already there, or what happened actually?
No, I got to, okay, that was acute gangrenous peritonitis in 1988. Okay, I was 24, and I went to Singapore in 1994. So that was before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, that was just, I was living in New York City, and I was, young. I was 24 years old, and I had pains, and I thought I had food poisoning. So I didn't go to the hospital, and it turns out I had a leaky appendix for a long time, and I didn't know it, and it had burst, right? And there was poison in my body, but I didn't know it, because when you have a burst, see, when your appendix is inflamed, it actually is very uncomfortable, right? But when it bursts, it's not uncomfortable, so you could have flu-like symptoms and just feel off, right? It's very slow poisoning. So I got to the hospital very late because I was stubborn, and they operated immediately. And this is what's funny. It's not funny, but it ties into sort of the flu and COVID, because I got ARDS, which is adult respiratory distress syndrome, okay?
Mm-hmm.
From acute gangrenous peritonitis, okay? And I almost died because I was on a respirator for a month, and they were just jamming me with antibiotics. I had a laparotomy done. They were, I flatlined like 5 times. Long story short, I'm here. But ARDS is what kills old people, elderlies who get the flu. Because what ARDS is, it's really like a pneumonia. It's like your lungs fill up with fluid and you suffocate, okay?
Oh.
And so, but this virus is not causing ARDS, right? It's causing COVID-2, which is really hypoxia. So everyone's saying HIV causes AIDS, which I don't believe. Polio causes the polio virus. And they're saying SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus they're saying is out there now, is causing COVID-19, which is that terrible, dry cough. It's like you're coughing razor blades. And there's something very diabolical about this. I'm not going to go where I think it heads, but what I'm saying is when they first were talking about treating COVID-19, they were saying respirators, right? Because most people who die of the flu die of ARDS, and they're put on a respirator, right? And they end up dying on the respirator. But that's the right treatment for ARDS. That's how you put someone on a respirator, because their lungs are so heavy with fluid, they can't move their lungs. Mm-hmm. But the respirators were killing people with COVID-19, because it was really just a total inability to absorb oxygen, right? It had nothing to do, the lungs weren't filled with, there was fluid, but the lungs could still breathe themselves, right? So that was another thing. There are people who have damaged lungs for life, who were still struggling, who were put on respirators wrongly. So I don't know where I went with that, but I survived ARDS in 1988.
Beautiful. And, we've talked about stress, especially during this time, with people having like weakened immune system and things like that. One of the ways that you actually use maybe to reprogram yourself, or to manifest maybe something that you want in your life, or maybe in your health, and So how do you go about that? Can you tell us a little bit? Because I know many people will need that now to get maybe out of a state of depression or stress, right?
Well, a lot of it is about awareness. So, I would recommend shutting your TV. My TV, I don't watch the television, because the television, like I said, stress can cause a depressed immune system. It also can sort of, it gets you out of your heart center, and it gets you in fear. And, that's not good. And the news is never going to really tell you anything good. So really, what's the point of watching it? So it's really about making choices, right? So, like after I did Tony Robbins, I looked at food differently, right? Because Tony, there's this line, he said, eat for nutrition, not recreation, right? So after that, I'd look at a plate of food and I'd say, you know what, I'm not going to eat this, because there's no nutrition. It's 800 calories of nothing. And I'm just going to clog my body. And the clogging adds to the acidity and the toxicity, which can breed cancer and disease down the road, not overnight. It's not like you have a meal that you can't process. So for me, it's almost having some mantras, because we're always talking to ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it really started with the awareness that I am not my body. Okay. It was like a spiritual path, right? Having the distinction that there's more to me than this physical, I call it a DNA skin suit. And so with that, it's sort of like I have this human aspect of me, and I have this spiritual aspect of me. And, connecting with the spiritual side, or getting to know that, or what that is, or what's possible with that, is actually quite calming and reassuring. And it sort of gets you out of fear, because, the human side's about fear and competition and failure and success and bills. And, so going the other road is sort of like going away from that and being at peace and being grateful. So gratitude's a huge thing, right? So every day I practice gratitude. So because the way the universe works in my eyes is, what you focus on is sort of what you get. It's not like you focus on, a BMW and it shows up on your driveway. We know that's not how it happens. So meaning it has to do with vibrations and frequencies. So in a way, fear is a low vibration, right? So it's just about seeing the glass, and as a lot, seeing the world with possibility is a high frequency. It's like faith, right? It's like seeing the world with faith. And when you start to see the world with faith and not fear, you're opening up bigger channels, because your vibration's bigger. and then you attract that, right? You know, if you're in constant fear and worry, you attract that because the universe is saying, well, this is what you're comfortable with, so I'm going to give you more of that. So you have to take control of your life and what what goes into your mind and what you feed it. And that's a huge thing. And I have mantras. Sometimes we all have those mantras where, what an idiot, I should have done that. And, and I should have done this, right? We all go there, but there's another aspect where it's the same road. It's about being present. There's this whole thing about now, right? But now is not really about the moment, like now, like how do you get to now? It's not being in the past and it's not being in the future, okay? So these distinctions I've made is that in order to have thoughts, and we are not our thoughts. I look at our thoughts as like a parasite, like I look at thoughts as ego, which you need your ego. We can't just be here and sit in a ball of light and, do nothing. We're here to compete and achieve and learn and suffer. But it's about getting that, I call your ego in your head and your spirits in your heart. So it's sort of about a balance between your head and your heart, right? Because if you're all in ego, you never get to know your spiritual self, right? You're just this human banker, dentist, accountant, and you never think outside of that, who am I? And that whole aspect of that thinking is typically fearful. I'm not good enough, right? I should have done that. My dad did this, or I had, look at that guy, he has better parents, and all that's nonsense. That's all stories, right? When you're in your heart, you need nothing. It really is sort of like wanting for nothing, needing nothing. It's about being grateful for whatever you have. And life is really easy when you're in that place. Like, with COVID-19, I haven't been afraid once. I haven't washed my hands once with any disinfectant, not once, okay? I haven't worn a mask. I mean, I'll wear a mask when I have to, but I do not ever wear a mask. When I go out, I don't wear a mask, okay? I'll put it on when I have to, right? Because I have a certain view of what's going on, but I'm also not a slave. I'm thinking for myself. I'm thinking what I'm going to focus on. I'm thinking what empowers me. And I'm thinking, what's the best thing for my psyche? So, that's a part. So part of the reprogramming is, well, now you can go on YouTube and say reprogram, just type in reprogram my mind. And, but there's a way, so your subconscious, there's your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. You can reprogram your subconscious, but you have to really work really super hard at it, because we have been programmed since before we could speak. Do you understand? We've picked up the rituals and the programs of our parents and people around us, and we're running those rituals and programs, whether we like it or not. Ideas about money, ideas about what we're worth, ideas about what we deserve, ideas, all these things are imprinted on us. And basically, because we're an expert at, sort of being run by these old programs and rituals and beliefs, it's hard to rewrite them. So you got to work hard at it, right? There are scrolls you can read 3 times a day. There's mantras you can do. There's meditation. And it really just, the way to reprogram your mind is to have some mantras, or to know what, to set some goals, but also to sort of meditate and get out of your head and get into your heart, where it's really going from fear to faith.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Beautiful and well put. And as you were saying, there is a saying that each and every one of us is complete in ourselves if we have that firm belief about who we are. Yes. And coming from our heart. So we are complete in us and wanting nothing. So it goes in alignment with what you just said, connecting with our heart and knowing that, who we are as people, and understanding that this physical body is just, because we are on this earth. So that's when we are using it. But our real essence is what matters, and having that connection and coming from that place is very important.
Well, the ego has to defend. The ego has to win, right? The ego has to be right. So, but that's not who you are. You're the infinite essence of your heart. And the ego is there to sort of tell you when to brush your teeth and take a shower, and otherwise you'd just be sitting there meditating all day. So basically, I forgot what I was going to say, but that's the the idea is to, to shoot arrows of compassion at people instead of you're wrong, because the ego makes everyone wrong. So when you come from a place of compassion, if you have that ability, or don't respond at all versus reacting, a lot, your life becomes easier and you can change other people's days.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, I'm so happy that you're actually sharing this with us because this platform is more about this, and you bringing this up and being part of this is only so much welcome, for people out there, for myself, because I look at this platform as for me, also learn from you guests who come here. And I just feel like, yeah, it's a blessing to have
Oh,
everyone
that's awesome.
here to share, with an open heart and giving us all these tips, or even talking about your personal journey or the things that you do for yourself. Yes, because these are things that when you speak to people and there is an exchange of energy, and the way that when that is done, we feel connected, we can relate to many things. It might not be exactly the same, but the connection is there. You feel like, oh, so maybe this is happening to me like this because I haven't been thinking this way, or because I'm not centered, because I haven't been connecting with my heart. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So bringing this up is really, really essential to us
Yeah.
as humans, coming from that place of collaboration and working together to make ourselves get better and better. So thank you so much for that. For your openness.
You're welcome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So you have your podcast, this Awakened Mind podcast. I just want to know, can you tell us a little bit about this? Because I know you have like a lot to share on your platform. How did you come up with this, being awakened? This is a big word, and it is like when I say it, I feel the bubbles, because most of us, we live, because when you become awakened, an awakened mind, it means there is something that and that gives you that confidence, to take certain actions and even look at certain things and evaluate. We are, with that open mind, not coming from that place of being maybe biased about anything, but you just so open to learn, to grow, to share, to give, and to implement certain things in your life, because that they empower you and they put you in that place of completeness. So please share that with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a work in progress, because as extroverted as I can be at times, I actually don't like being seen. I'm kind of like this little scared kid, So in terms of the
Doesn't look
podcast,
like, and it doesn't sound like. We see,
no, I know it's
eloquent.
strange. It's in public, I'm very animated, and my business was always a bit about being funny and silly, but also, being on target, and it's like I'm a dichotomy of both. But yeah, I mean, the awakened mind is sort of that to me, awareness is the key, because I've had so many moments where this little veil lifted and it's right in front of you, but you can't see it, because I call it your aperture for truth, right? Where we all have a certain level of what we believe. And this is really about expanding it, the vision, the view, the perspective. And when you put some time in, I call it burning calories. When you burn the calories and you go down a road and you learn new stuff, then you have knowledge. And with knowledge, you're kind of becoming awake, because there's so much more going on than what we know and what we can see. And for me, it's been this journey between, Tony Robbins, my forays into who are we and why we're here and what's possible. I believe we all are here to teach each other, and we all have gifts, and everything is a gift, it's a gift to inhabit this body and have this physical experience. I think it's very brave of us to come here, but also we have to look at everyone as a gift with certain, things to teach. We all have things to teach each other, but the awakened mind is really just about basically thinking, being, having the knowledge that there's more to what we know, there's more to who we are, and there's a huge world of possibility that we can't see. And when we can see it, it really neutralizes fear, and it gets us to a place of our heart. Not to say you're going to not be in your head spinning around in your ego, but it's going to, this knowledge can give us tools. So when we see something on the news, we can see it for what it is and not have to react and not be affected by it. It's that kind of power. It's subtle, right? But not being in fear is massive,
Right.
like it's incredible to have just that alone. But then there's that whole thing of, what can I manifest? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? How can I help the world? Seeing how your thoughts and the things you say to people have ripples, and you have to take responsibility for everything. And when you have this awareness, it can change the world in small ways, right? Because I believe there's one universal law, right? That do not harm another being. And I believe if the entire world followed this, and I believe this is I think this is a law of God, source, divinity, do not harm another. And if you do not harm another, that means you don't steal from them. That means you don't hurt them physically, emotionally. That means, there would be no need. We would live in, a perfect world. But we don't come here to have a perfect world, because we want the duality. We want the contrast. We want the challenge so our souls can grow. That's why it's a gift. That's why the guy giving you a bunch of crap is something you probably signed up for at some level. And, you need to learn this, you need to go through this, because you can't go through it from a place. If you're, if all our souls are sitting there in a place of love, there's really, no one's going to break each other's balls or, hurt each other. So we're down here to experience what we can't in our divine nature, So this is an incredible experience.
Yeah. So, and I also like when you say that you take the responsibility of pointing your finger at yourself, that finger at yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes we live in a world that we sometimes, things happen in our life, or in certain ways, we accuse that person, we accuse that, we are pointing fingers on everybody else, except having some real conversation, or sitting ourselves down, just by ourselves, and having some real thoughtful time with ourselves. And I call that me time. For me, me time is very important. It's like a time to sit down to reevaluate certain things, and to watch my thoughts, and to maybe evaluate maybe my day, or certain things that have happened in the past, or a situation comes up and I really need to sit down and try to find out what is happening. So you really coming out from that place of saying, you point the finger at yourself. It's really amazing, because that shows I'm taking responsibility. I own this. You know what I mean? So please share us your view on it.
Well, I mean, I think if everyone took responsibility for everything they say and do and create, there would be a lot less problems in this world. And that's sort of following the universal laws, do not harm another. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I take responsibility. I don't go around saying you screwed me over. No, I put myself in that situation and allowed it. Do you understand? If I do a bad business deal with someone, I'm not happy about it, but I have to take responsibility about me not having the intuition to know this is a guy I don't want to do business with. Okay. So it's not his fault. I allowed it. It's my fault. Even if he's the most dastardly, I put my faith in something that wasn't true, and I'm the one that allowed it. So that's one example, but your life can really be powerful when you stop playing the victim. This is really about stopping playing the victim. So, because I believe I also believe in reincarnation, right? So I actually believe our goal is to not reincarnate anymore, so, but I think a lot of the programming in our lives, in perpetual lives, is the victim perpetrator, right? And I think we come down here and we don't even know it, but we subconsciously end up in situations where it's victim perpetrator. So not only do I try not to, and I can see that happening all the time, right? I mean, I was in a job and someone else, this accountant left this really, really sensitive piece of paper on the, in the office, in the middle of the office, right? And this is a document that is only for higher ups, okay? But it's something no one should see. But a guy on my desk found it, right? And all of a sudden, you know, people know what everyone's making, and, you know, private information's gone. And, you know, next thing I know, there's people with opinions about my situation, so they don't want me around anymore. But I never blamed the guy who left the paper, you know? I just said for some reason, this is supposed to happen. And then when I look back, I realized I could have handled this 10 different ways. And I chose to just sort of say, okay, you know, whatever you guys want. But the thing is, my ego could have flipped out. And, you know, in some ways, maybe that's what I should have done, defended myself more, because I didn't do anything wrong, right? And it was all speculation. It was all sort of what I felt was not true. But this is how egos work on this plane when everyone's in their head, right? Because egos are defending themselves, right? When people are in their heart, this wouldn't happen, right? Because people don't want for nothing. There is no victimhood when you're in your heart, right? So, but the whole pointing your finger at yourself is, I didn't try hard enough. I'm late because, you know, because I didn't wake up early enough, you know, not because there was an accident, right? Or I'm late, you know. If you're late, you're late. You know, don't give some bullshit example, you know, to try and validate yourself. So, you know, that's sort of my thing. I kind of got that from the seminar I did when I was 25. It sort of gave me the insight into that. That's a very Zen type of thing. But you know, these tools I've had have made my life, I mean, tremendously easy, because I don't come from any money. I come from family that argued a lot, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of brothers and sisters, we all love each other, but high volatility in my programming wasn't really for abundance and you can do anything, you know. That's not exactly the programming I had. So I had to sort of take it in my own hands to say, you know, fuck this. I'm going to do this my way, you know.
Beautiful there. And you
sorry about the cuss word. Anyway, I take responsibility for that. Okay.
It's okay. So that's part of being humans, and just handle it, you know, like a gentleman. So
yeah, I was making a point.
Yeah, it happens. So you've been traveling around. I know you haven't been in the United States for a long time. And how have you been handling being away from your family?
Oh, well, I mean, when I first got here, it was just crazy adventure. I mean, it was, you know, and then this job I got entrenched with. So I got here in November '94, and it was crazy. You can think 1994, Singapore was quite small compared to this gleaming city it is now. And it was growing like a weed. I mean, people from all over the world, and we're traveling. Hey, I'm going to Thailand. Hey, I'm going to Cambodia. Hey, I'm going to, you know, Rangoon. And, you know, just, it was nonstop. I mean, I think I lived out of a duffel bag for 3 years on the weekends. And then all of a sudden you know, your job sort of takes off and you're like, I'm going to stay 2 years, and I'm going to stay 2 years. You know, you keep signing these 2-year contracts because there's really nothing to go back to in terms of work, and you have it good here. So you have this dilemma of having a life here, but your family's over there, and it's hard. It's really hard. So either I rationalize it and I'm in denial, but I'm a freak, right? I don't look at a normal life as, you know, you have the house and the fence and the kids and the grandchildren. I mean, that's absolutely beautiful, but my life took such a turn that I can't really go there because I've been on the go so much. So my life's about freedom and experience. And I guess I've always missed my family. There's always sort of an emptiness, a bit of a pang. And the way I deal with it is you know, I'm here and there's nothing I can do about it. And I actually have a lot of freedom being away because I don't have to go to birthdays. I don't have to get, you know, all these Mother's Day, Father's Day. I mean, I think if you're in the States, it's nonstop, right? You know, at least before this whole COVID nonsense, you know, and so like I said, I had so much time to read and explore. I really got to go inside myself. And I think that's a gift I must have signed up for somehow, you know, because I've always wanted to go back, but I never did.
Right. Right. But I think that is strong because being away at such a young age and then taking responsibility and making those good choices about your health and well-being, about yourself, getting into your heart, you know, that shows a lot of maturity at a young age and then being away from your family.
Oh,
So I really commend you for that because it's not many people will be able to, you know, to come out that way.
I
And
appreciate that. It was hard. It was hard.
yeah, but pulling it out and just being curious and reading all the books you've been reading and looking at how the knowledge you're pouring here, it shows a lot of like you were determined, you heart having because sometimes we can be open-minded, but we make the wrong choices. We don't go to the right direction. But being in your shoes and then doing what you've done and being able to streamline and knowing what is good for you and making those choices and listening to people like Tony Robbins and reading those books and getting, you know, all those information that you have. And not only you took them in, because sometimes we can read so many books, we can listen to so many motivational speakers, you know, but we still don't do the work. Because the problem is not just being there and then listening or getting all this information, is how much we implement in our personal lives. Because implementing them, that's what makes you be an example in your world. You know, encourage and give the, you know, like if somebody says, oh, Steve, if Steve could do this, so I don't have any excuse. So you are actually an inspiration to those around you, and listening to you, right, that really makes me feel like, wow, that's an incredible journey. And then making, you know, making those decisions for yourself, it's really great.
Wow. Thanks, Mary. I mean, it's a responsibility when you have knowledge that you believe is true about the universe and who we are, and that we're all connected, and we, you know, we need to, you know, it doesn't mean you should let people walk over you. It just means if you know this stuff and you don't implement it, then, you know, you're, I mean, for me, if I know that I have a choice how to react or respond, I always say the heart responds, the ego reacts. So I don't react. I try to respond to try and figure out what's going on in that person's life. If they're attacking me, I must be causing it, or something really terrible is going on. So I'm not just going to say, well, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, I don't do that. So, you know, it's a responsibility that if you have this knowledge about how to treat people, you should do it as best you can. I'm not perfect, but I try to do it as much as I can.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. So it's been a wonderful time talking with you and having this great conversation. And
I had a great time.
Yeah. So what would you like to share as your last thought, you know, with the audience? But before we get to that, I'm gonna have your information, you know, on this episode, you know, like your website and everything, and your podcast.
They can find
so
me.
People can actually, so they can find you and, you know, and get
there's
more
not much to find right now. I'm a work in progress, but we'll put it down.
It's okay. And it's okay, you know, and it's okay. So we would like to get your last thought, you know, to the audience. What would you say to them?
I'd say know that you're an infinite being, a creator being, and anything's possible for you. And to don't be hard on yourself, and to know that we all have this ego that talks to us all day, and it's not very friendly. So look into what that ego is and how to quiet it and how to get to your heart, because that's where your true essence is. And that's a fearless aspect of you that's infinite and timeless and formless. So if you can tap into that, literally just having less fear in your life can change everything. But regarding what's going on now, I'd like people to think a little bit more. If your kid comes up to you and says, hey, Dad, 2 + 2 = 5, you're going to go, oh, no, son, that's not, no, 2 + 2 = 4, 2 + 2 = 5 is wrong. So if the media is telling you something, and that intuition, that aspect of you that is a sovereign being says, I don't know, is the world really organically this awful and terrible and evil, and wars and killing, or regarding COVID, people beating people up about masks, or police coming into people's houses? I mean, does this make sense? You got to just open the aperture, exhale, and think for yourself, and don't just do what you're told to do. Think and don't do to just please. Do what empowers you, and look for the truth in your heart.
Thank you so much. So we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing with us. I had a wonderful time, and I'm sure that everybody listening to this will be empowered and inspired in working.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we've come to the end. Take time to listen. Take time to get to Steve's website, or to the link. I'm going to have this on the description box of this episode, and get empowered. Take your life back, and know that you're complete, wanting nothing. So take care, and bye for now.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.